thank you for joining us. I'm Rafaela from the editorial team at Architecture Hunter, and I'm happy to present this webinar today. This series began as a way to explore one of Architecture Hunter's core pillars, education. Each month, we dive into a new theme to spark learning, exchange, and inspiration within our global community. All webinars are recorded and made available on our platform so anyone can revisit them or watch for the first time at their convenience. In May, we're focusing on tech shaping architecture, exploring how innovation and digital tools are transforming how we design, build, and experience architecture. So I'm really excited about today's conversation and especially about the amazing guests we have joining us. Each of our guests will kick things off by sharing a bit about their work, their approach, and what they've been exploring lately. After each presentation, we'll move into a live Q&A moderated by Daniela Silva, our amazing journalist. So feel free to send in questions. And before we get started, just a quick reminder, entries for the Architecture Hunter Awards 2025 are officially open. We're now in the main entry phase, so if you haven't gotten your entry yet, now's a great time. You still have until July 9 to join us and be part of this global celebration of architecture. Okay, so let's kick off this webinar with Carlos Bañón, Associate Professor at Singapore University of Technology and Design. He's director of the Architectural Intelligence Research Lab, leading research in AI-driven design, digital fabrication, and sustainable geometry. Co-author of 3D printing architecture, his work, featured at the Venice Biennale and awarded Singapore's President's Design Award, explores AI as a means to enhance human creativity. So please welcome Carlos. We're very excited to have you with us today.
All right. Well, thank you very much for the introduction and for the invitation. I just want to confirm that sound is okay, Rafaela?
Yes,
Working well?
we can see you and hear you well.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Then I will start sharing my slides. All right. So, well, thanks everyone for joining, and it's a pleasure for me to share something about what I've been working recently on the field of AI and architecture. So I call this webinar More Artificial, More Human. So I'm going to start sharing some content. As maybe this is relatively provocative. I'm not sure if the sound will be out here in the video. Let me see, Rafaela, if the sound is okay, I will play it.
Project using GPT 4.1 and Midjourney, and Prof didn't even realize. Wow! Could you see his face?
Let me try to share.
We can hear the audio.
It's working? Okay.
AI is a bubble. Yeah. Stop this nonsense and use your brains.
I always wanted to be an architect, but I wasn't sure I could draw.
I really hope we can keep control.
I love architecture theory. I love what we do with our passion and knowledge. Yeah.
Yeah.
We are setting new rules. Architecture shall be taught differently.
AI is a bubble, Thijs, just only hype. Please open the Newfert and let's review today's lesson about the right furniture size.
We have no future. I found a new tool that can swap materials from buildings.
Yeah.
That is called Photoshop.
How did you do that?
I used Formus. AI, so much control. You should try.
Whether you want to accept it or not, embrace the change. Now we can focus on the human side of architecture pride, shedding old prejudices and outdated views. It's a new era, but it demands strong foundations. Our talent and architectural judgment won't be replaced by AI, but maybe most people won't appreciate it. We need to move fast.
Now, I design beyond my limits.
It's such an amazing time to learn architecture. You will not only be part of a revolution, you will set the rules of the game for the next decades.
All right, so I wanted to start with this provocative introduction. As well, the entire video, as you could imagine, is entirely generated with AI, with the latest model VO3 that generates sound with the creation of the video. It's quite impressive. But to give you some context of where we are right now, I want to start sharing a bit of like how we evolved in the last, I would say, 4 years, where we come from. We look at 1970 and where we are now in 2025, because the relation between what we can do and the progress in technology in terms of design is very, very important. So if we look at the past and 1982, we're going to look at AutoCAD V1, and you can see the 2-bit color depth that we could use, and it was quite impressive by then. Enable us to work with vector graphics, evolving into software that we could use in our computers at home in the Z80 with 8.5 transistors. If you look at more advanced processors like Intel 486, allowed to run Photoshop in its first version in 1981. And that was the way that we could work with bitmaps and start creating images with more depth, rich in color, and working with arrays of information. Evolving, we moved now into Rhino Zeros, V1 in 1988, developed by McNeil, and allowed us to work with NURBS, with geometries that were quite complex, and the computers were able, the Pentium 3 by then, or AMD K7, were able to move the graphics quite smoothly. 2007 started to work with parametric design in Grasshopper in a visual interface that for architects is very important. The interface, I will talk about the interface later, but the way that we relate with the code, with the engine behind, is very important for us to really keep certain level of structure. And the Grasshopper enabled dynamic geometries using a visual language. 3D printing in architecture printed on a larger scale from 2010 to 2014, where we're seeing integration of multiple technologies, drones, weaving, extreme control of the geometry and the structural understanding of the pavilions. So we're looking at now at 4 billion transistors of the technology we were using by then. But 2020 was a revolutionary year in a way that we started hearing something about the GPTs, the generative pre-trained transformer models. But it was 2022 when this ChatGPT was released to the public by OpenAI, and GPT 4 was actually revolutionary. So if you look at the span of time between 1982 and 2022, is 4 years, we can see that we have moved from tools to agents. We are evolving from those tools that could perform specific tasks to something that can learn, adapt to certain conditions. And we are starting to not needing to have direct human control and to create agents, semi-autonomous systems that are able to conduct tasks independently. So we're moving from something that we could call tools to something that is close to what we understand as intelligence. So from assistance to real collaboration with technology. So in this part, I'm going to share something about, the evolution in the field of architecture, how AI started to be a bit more mainstream. And here in this part, I'm going to talk first about control. As Rafaela said at the beginning in the introduction, my domain is also on digital design and 3D printing. So these structures you can see here are extremely lightweight and are 3D printed using different materials. In this case, I'm using stainless steel. So stainless steel with high performance grade that solves the complex intersection of many bars pointing out to one point, right? In this case, to the center of that node. So each of the nodes is parametrically generated with a high level of control in the geometry and the manufacturing. You can see the threads are 3D printed too. So inside of the node, we optimize the material in a way that we don't place material where it's not needed. So we reduce the weight about 80 to 90% compared to conventional methods. So saving materials and definitely reducing the carbon footprint in the fabrication. and of course, producing zero waste. The structure, the system was developed and was installed at the Gardens by the Bay and was there for 3 years. It was a very challenging but successful research project that we tested. It was first in the world to be 3D printed in stainless steel as a space frame. And well, that was July 2022, sorry, 25th of July. That was the inside of the pavilion, the likeness, the materiality that I was trying to explore, that in between nature and something artificial. But those days, something happened. I mean, in July, we started looking at new technologies that arrived to our computers. So in the left, you can see the picture of the pavilion during fabrication. On the right is my first image done in Midjourney V3. So we moved from making to imagine. And these series of images were created just using prompts. That was mind-blowing. We could type, we could explore a whole new universe by using words and trying to develop a certain kind of language to bring those ideas, to expand our imagination. So we started figuring out how does a really prompt work, right? So in a simple way, we're actually pulling information from a database. A model has been trained from thousands of images, and we are actually pulling that data set. And we do it using words, the tokens in which the model has been trained. We're pulling it into a novel image. So this image doesn't exist, only exists because we're using that model and we use the certain number of words. And then there's different ways in which we can find certain control, especially talking about Midjourney. There's different prompts. You can use one or a secondary prompt. You can use weights. Now we're used to add numbers to the words in a way that they have more impact in the generation of the image. So you can definitely develop a certain strategy. And I would say here, we have developed designers, architects, researchers, different methods to get where we wanted, right? These are some cues that I was given like 2 years ago when we started working with Midjourney, and it was like training people on using the tool, certain structure that basically help us create the designs that we were actually looking for. And everything, all these images, these realistic images, starts with this. This is noise, and that's how the images are generated. So if we say that this is a cat, the denoising process is gonna create that image of the cat. And because before we had a forward diffusion, is a process in which we basically turned all these images that we trained the model with into predicted noise. And what we do to create the new images is to reverse that diffusion. So through the latent space, in the latent space, what we do is to compress, to encode those images into a space that is 48 times smaller. We can decode that into new images. So if we say to this image of a noise, we say that it's a cat wearing a hat in New York, then we're going to start denoising this noise, right, random noise, and then we're creating an image. And that was generated real time in a PC with a decent graphics card, nothing too special, maybe a 3080 by then. And the particular feature of this image is that whenever we generate another image with the same prompt, we're getting a different image. And it's because the seed of the noise, when the noise is different, we're getting a different result. So that brings a kind of like an infinite version, and that requires creative curation in our site. So Midjourney 4, we're talking about January 2023, helped me expand research projects that I have been actually working on, like these joints, three-dimensional joints, start exploring different ways of expressing the tectonics through different materials. And in this series, I was using materials that don't exist, this mix of bamboo with steel. You can see the fibers. Then I started exploring porosity and grain in the images with the model that Midjourney allows us to work on, Midjourney 4. And then taking real projects, the lattice you can see on the left is 3D printed. And then the idea was to propose that instead of adding, was carving into the wall the logo of, in this case, was Louis Vuitton, the client that we had. And then production became something really fast, creating images, number of images, and then our hard disks, our screens were full of images, and we needed to develop a certain way of like training the eye to identify which images actually were carrying more interesting content that were able to be developed further into real architectural design. So basically, was curating at a very fast pace something that we learned over that year to produce in a very fast pace, almost at 60 frames per second. So we could do instant explorations because now it doesn't take much time to create, in this case, a 3D model or a photo montage for these concepts. Was relatively easy to take out of our mind ideas of integrating architecture and landscape. And because this is not a single direction process, we could actually use sketching. And after we create the image on the left with AI, we can actually draw over a section. We can take that section into a 3D model and continue the iteration, feed it back into the AI models. Midjourney 4 allowed us to increase the quality and the consistency through the images of a series, in this case exploring the inside of those modern caves. And Midjourney 5 in March 2023 was the first time that I share images of a project done with AI with a client, with an actual client, and it was quite impressive to see their reaction, you know, seeing like something very real and something quite doable. Exploring styles, this pavilion by Enrique Miralles, or this furniture, where we place the focus not just only on the design, but also on the designer or the user. So AI enable us to really not just look at the object, but look at the full scene, the narrative. Images, in this case, satellite images, changing the materiality, exploring something that is not fully 100% real, or exploring concepts of articulation of landscape and relation between humans and nature, interior spaces, materiality, tectonics, in a way that I was really interested in bringing the weight to these kind of images. They're generated with AI, and most of them, they look very fake. But in my case, I wanted to really bring something raw, something heavy, something that could transfer tectonic properties that I am extremely interested in. Midjourney 6 brought what I call the magic realism. And these images, when I started generating these images, I was really impressed with the quality that I was able to get. As people started to ask me, how do you do that? This kind of, I couldn't do this with any rendering engine. So we really crossed the line in which even we spend endless hours with a rendering software we couldn't get here. And then the interiors that I was sharing were extremely realistic, and even I got like multiple emails and calls like they wanted to shoot here. I think we got Zara interested, and the place doesn't exist, right? So it's the what happens now with the new models with AI so realistic. But I wanted to use these models as well to basically to generate a statement about architecture, especially using this technology. Using AI models and of course our creativity, we can actually place the focus on something that is not sleek, something that is not extremely smooth, but maybe rather rough and localized, using cultural elements. In this case, I was working with a series in Africa, trying to understand the fundamentals and the elemental geometries, how people and nature could coexist. Generating images that were probably the seed of something that could be easily built with materials that could be found locally. So this series, where nature was the center and architecture was around, were possible and were enabled with the AI models. And then working with videos was actually very transformative by then, because we could not just see the design as a static element or as an image, but we could see people really using it. And that really could bring like our designs to life. And so how navigate the spaces. spaces that were porous, spaces that were in tune with nature, full of life, people and architecture and nature coexisting. And these videos, created with the first version of Runway, were showing not just the architecture, but also the potential behaviors of people and how they could actually use those spaces. So that was really transformative, but we architects, we use more than words. So we wanted to create something that is not just using words, but also inputs from our hands or our 3D models. So the way that we got there was through ControlNet. So ControlNet allows for diversity, allows us to really avoid the genericness and to get less of the bias from the models. So if I show a quick sequence of how we use ControlNet here, you can see this image is a very generic image of a museum that could be anywhere. But as we increase the weight of ControlNet, you can see on the bottom right, it's 0.4, it's going to get to 1. So as we increase it, we can see a more clear geometry and definition of the space, 0.8, 0.9, and 1. So when we get there, it's because we are using a 3D model, and that 3D model is extremely simple. As you can see, it's almost a wireframe model created in Rhino in probably about 2 minutes. And that can be transferred to the AI model through a Z-depth map, and that can create as many as variations as your imagination can bring, right? So start changing the seed, changing the parameters, then you can modify the lights, you can modify the materiality, and then you can keep iterating. The best thing of this is that it's not just a dead end. It's a conversation, it's a continuation of what you're actually working on. So I tested the models with existing projects. So this is a house that was built with my office, Subarquitectura, in Spain, in Madrid. And because we have the 3D model, the idea was to test the possibilities of the model. In the left, you can see the actual picture of the house. On the right, the 3D model. So I started using the Z map from that 3D model to create different versions of that house. Maybe it's nodes, maybe with very low budgets, or maybe with the roof covered in grass. And then we could change the point of view and get the same consistency. We could create versions in seconds of a project that was built. We could see the potential variations and the potential adaptations of the project to different conditions, and also to find some in-betweens. You see the shape here is not exactly the shape from the 3D model, but we can reduce the form adherence and then start to explore around the concept we have designed with our 3D model. So we can change materials, and we do that through new interfaces like Comfy UI, and models like Stable Diffusion XL allowed us to see existing buildings with different materials, to see cathedrals made in bamboo, Sydney Opera built in a completely different way, inflatable buildings. So we could take to almost to life ideas and concepts that would be very difficult to communicate, but now the communication was simplified through the 3D models. You can see here the Colosseum, and it's not changing the materials alone. You can see the construction means. You can see people really working on putting the bamboo together. You can see famous buildings like the one on the left by Bjarke Ingels or Dylan Scofidio in New York, made of bricks, bamboo, Gaudi. Those images were really fun to make, but also quite transformative. Also from our students, this is an exercise that we did with our students in Singapore in SUTD, changing the materiality of iconic furniture designs. So we had to relearn how we communicate with this new technology, and yeah, here basically, we coined this kind of hybrid language term that is not just drawing with sketches, which is something else. We need to understand how AI operates. And if you look at this design and the depth and quality of this image and the sense that it probably makes tectonically, it is generated only with the image on the right. So to create these concepts, basically, I created a drawing with a certain color code that allowed AI to understand the volumes and the kind of elements that were displayed on the image. So you see here is a super simple 3D model using layers as segmentation colors. So the model can be understood, and therefore, as we rotate, combining depth and combining segmentation, we get consistency and we can see our creation from multiple sides. That was 1.5 years ago, and the consistency was quite good. The models improved, but the essence is the same. Working with almost like an Excel file, you can create this design for, concept design for towers where, you can imagine like the potential materialities, or in this case, taking to the extreme, working in Photoshop and using just the colors for the layers to create extremely realistic designs like this one here, and variations introducing lines. As you can see here, it's not just the colors, you can introduce lines, and the lines can be imprinted in your design. The prompt can change, and the essence of the geometry remains, and exploring different materialities and zooming in with the upscalers to really look at potential details that you can actually materialize with conventional methods. So we are looking at augmented sketching. So we're looking at how our hands, our simple lines can be turned into concept designs in seconds, into visuals that can create impact. You can see here how the very first sketch that you have seen could be transformed into a space that you can arrive and then you can also enter. Our drawings are charged, are recharged actually. These drawings both are created with AI. Actually, the one on the left and the one on the right is an image from Midjourney, and our images, the drawings are actually created with Stable Diffusion. Exploring the expressivity of drawing with AI, and eventually to create technical drawings that could allow to represent or to fabricate these objects. Sketches that could be interpreted with diffusion models, and design workflows that are redefined, right? So that is why I placed the focus in the last year in particular on created almost instant interfaces that allow us to really work with those models, right? So the one you can see here is created in processing. That was 1 year ago, 1.5 years ago, working with simple geometries to create variations in seconds. So through that tool, I was able to change parametrically typology of a villa in Japan, in this case, and generate images of extreme realism in seconds, but the most important thing, to create variations. And then the possibilities that are open when working with these models, seeing real-time the transformations that you have from your parametric model into realistic representations. So the interface developed into a more complex tool that now is publicly released. So this interface allows designers to create simple shapes and real-time modify, create variations, negative spaces, tectonic qualities to generate speculative designs like this one here. So the tool at the moment don't have a module that analyzes the structure, which I think for me is fine because we still have the human sense of structural tectonics. So we are the ones leading, we are the ones deciding that we want to make this design. So for even it's impossible, the one on the top right? But I mean, why not? You can actually propose anything as long as you know where you are. And these are images with the same model, with a more advanced model that blends architecture and landscape, which is a topic that I'm extremely interested. And that is achieved with this method using segmentation and depth. Very important for me also to bring the local materials or the local style or potentially something that blends with the culture in which you are working. And this series was designed for a village in my hometown in Alicante. These new interfaces allow for real-time communication. We can use our voice, and the voice can be transferred into text, and the text can be used as a prompt in an image. Or we can type real-time the models. Now the speed of the models allows for real-time renovation. In this case, on the right, you can see how the place can be renovated just by using certain words. And then the colors, the style, is reacting to your text. And the model is using the technology. There are two technologies that allow for that real-time representation, which is the turbo models of SDXL and the lightning models. So we can actually create a 3D model from the images as well. So that was done at the beginning. Like this is a kind of how it works, basically, as a pushing the points in space in 3D to create a very simple 3D model from an image in Midjourney. But the technology has evolved, and now we're able to, from an image, to create a video, from the video to create a 3D model that we could use. Even this one looks a bit broken, but can be definitely created in a higher resolution and definition. You can see here how a idea of a concept design can be transferred as well to a simple massing. So the model on the right, you can see, is a Rhino model that could be used as a base to develop this concept design. And applied to furniture, actually, we are closer to really have full control of the designs, as we can definitely take from the latent space any design and take it in a 360 degrees quality, and to be able to fabricate with high level of detail. You can see these meshes are more than 500,000 vertices, so it's very precise. So that enables new ways to design. We can take this design, we can extract the 3D model, we can go extremely fine, we can create models that could be 3D printed, and then we can directly from the latent space generate models that are built one-to-one. So moving toward the end part of the webinar, I'm just sharing something about that we need to, well, expand the words and basically to rethink the way that we design in education, in academia, right? So I've been teaching workshops, especially with PA Academy from 2023, and there's one more coming soon. I'm very excited about that one because there's new models and new technologies that I'm looking forward to share with everyone. And here you can see that I've been quite active, and even with universities, with online platforms, but also with private companies. And you can see here Logitech. Like I ran a workshop on designing mice that was extremely fun, and just sharing a passion and knowledge with students in Sao Paulo was fantastic. I really enjoyed those designs, that the concept designs that were presented to real developers in a workshop that we organized with the Architectural Association to regenerate the real piñeros. So students learned in about 2 weeks to conceptualize, to create a narrative, to control the design, the geometry that was presented, and to be able to create videos that could work as an effective way to communicate the ideas. And nicely inserted on site. In Singapore, I work with first year students in their studio to work with intuition, working with just paper, folding paper, and immediately start seeing a translation into space to articulate the landscape using something that you can fold, you can cut, and immediately you can see a translation on implementation. People using that space is quite transformative for a first year student, and that project is done in week 1. So in the first week, they start doing this, working with abstraction, working with a high grade of realism, connecting both ends in an exercise that could be maybe 4 or 5 years ago was almost unthinkable that we could actually do that. In Mexico, in Monterrey, I explore working with procedural geometries with AI to create land art designs. So they could work with concepts like circle packing and generate designs out of their coded geometries. And they 3D printed directly from the image that they created with AI. So you can see here results of our students. More 150 designs were made, so everyone was able to code using GPT, create images from the procedural image, and 3D print a model that had depth and very interesting results in the end. So you can see here that everyone was able to do that, and only in a few weeks, right? So very impressive. Students were really happy. I was really impressed by the talent of the instructors that were also conducting the workshop and the course in Monterrey. So we are unlocking hybrid design opportunities. We are able to create hybrids, to move into that space in which architecture blends with landscape. And we have different methods to do that. We have methods in a way we can blend, we can use architecture in a more malleable way, in a more fluid way. On the left, you can see the interface that was used in processing. On the right, the real-time translation into form, into explorations using sand and clay in this case. We can transfer styles. We can transfer something into a geometry that we conceive and explore expressivity in architecture. We can use extremely simple geometries to create complex ideas. Merging porosity architecture with the early models that we had at the beginning, but now these models are extremely precise and allow us to really explore concepts where we can reuse, we can probably integrate in places that have been destroyed or ruins that are now not usable. We can find opportunities to rebuild, to try to find different ways to insert architecture in places to coexist. So those images, all of these images are enabled thanks to AI. So lastly, just sharing some progress on the app that I was talking just a while ago. It's called Formas AI. So I'm sharing this finally with everyone. So Formas AI is a platform that I think is extremely relevant for designers, as allow to move from something very abstract and to have something extremely realistic at the same time. So the last version that I'm about to release is called multimodal Formas AI, and now we not just have one interface, we're gonna have almost instant interfaces. So you're able to sketch, to create images almost from different sources. And I'm really excited because we are condensing everything into a chat that allows you to really keep track of your conversation. So design becomes a visual conversation with our models. So shortly, the version will be public, so I'm very excited about sharing that today. And lastly, I mean, well, these are like some examples of like how we can use the tool, those models, in a way that, as I said, architecture and landscape blends. So just to finish, just something I said that still I think is relevant on that we are not just following the old rules, but we are making new ones. We continue making new ones as the models get really, really smart. We are seeing significant changes in our discipline, and I still remain optimistic. I don't think that our jobs, our roles are going to disappear, but they're going to transform radically in the coming years. So I think this updated, that I constantly update manifesto on the human and AI collaborative space, I think fast that this is not just augmentation; it's a new synergy between humans and technology. So we need to learn how to collaborate effectively. So understanding the strengths and limitations of both humans and machines. Second, I think this is a constant and really, really fast-paced evolving space. So it's a continuous change if we want to stay relevant. The models that worked last year don't work anymore today. So we need to think of interfaces, we need to think of mindsets that are fluid and allows us to continue growing as technology improves dramatically. And lastly, just an optimistic thought about architecture. We definitely will need to go back to the fundamentals with this technology. We need to have agency. We need to find ways to control and to explore, keeping the direction that we want to give. So we need to really get to the fundamentals. We need to tell our students about design ethics and guiding AI in a way that we can really make a positive change in the environment. So lastly, just finishing with a video, if it works. No. Well, it's been a long presentation, so thank you very much. I think we can finish the presentation here. So I'm open to questions from the audience. Thank you very much.
Carlos, thank you so much for your very much broad and provocative presentation. I'm a huge fan of your work, so it's a pleasure to have the opportunity to do a couple of questions.
Thank you.
I would like to open our conversation with a few questions that explore how your work sits at the interaction of digital technology and architectural innovation. And I will start with a question related to the end of your presentation about the role of architects. And since AI is rapidly shifting the landscape of architectural practice, um, from how we generate forms to how we analyze, simulate, and even make decisions based on that. I would like to ask you from your perspective and experience, how is artificial intelligence fundamentally changing the way architects design, think, and operate today? Because architecture practice is quite broad.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a question that we're still trying to answer. We do that at different domains, right? I mean, for instance, one of the things is education, right? How we are training now our students to be architects with this new paradigm, which is radically different, and also how we practice nowadays, right? How we can really meaningfully use these new technologies. Of course, the most obvious one use of AI for us has been the generation of concepts and images. So working with the power of AI, you're able to communicate. So I think one of the things we're really changing is the way that we communicate the ideas to people, to clients, to authorities, to even to our students. So creating narratives with architecture allows us to really spend time in something that before was probably not possible because we don't have that much time. I mean, to create all these additional details and spend time in talking about something that probably was not possible because we don't have resources. We need to deliver something very quick. So all these not so important things now become possible. So many details, many nuances in the presentations, and of course placing maybe more the focus on the human side rather than the object alone. In my experience, I've been working on different projects. So one is in collaboration with our architects and very lucky also to work with the amazing team of Nagami in the fabrication of large scale designs with 3D printing. So it's been a very exciting journey for us, how to transfer the very early intuitions that we had into images, that the images were converted into 3D models and the 3D models to be fabricated one-to-one with the structural integrity. So that process is completely new. So those are different workflows that never existed before. And I think more of that is going to happen. Maybe now we can see maybe some layers of AI being implemented, but I think that's going to really deepen as the models are getting stronger. And now maybe the buzzword now is like multimodal. And I think now you can see that the models are not just limited to one task, but they can perform, they can see, they can integrate what they can see, what they can make. And that is becoming way more what we understand a design partner.
And building on that, and you were talking about not only the role of architect, but how we educate future architects, right, in this changing world. As an educator yourself, you're shaping how the next generation understands and applies AI in their work. So my question is, how are you integrating these tools into your teaching, and what impact is it having on students' thinking and workflows, right? Because it's a new way of thinking, interacting, and
yeah. I'm trying different ways. I'm trying different ways. I think there's no one way to integrate because, as you mentioned before, our practice is very broad. So we could be doing some renovation projects. We could do like landscape designs. We could be doing just a very tiny intervention in a punctual place of a city. So when it comes to teaching students, I place myself at the very early beginning of their education and also at the very end, at the thesis level and the very core studio one. So I'm at the both ends. So when it comes to the first year, I try to frame it very well. I mean, students don't know much about architecture yet. And I think it's very important that they develop intuition. For me, my relationship with technology has been always trying to understand and try to blend somehow with the technology. So not trying using it as a tool, but trying to use it as an extension of your body or your mind. So AI should be understood as the same thing, right? So students should be able to know that the generation of these images is possible and maybe it's not relevant at certain steps, but it's possible. It's something they can use at any time. So at the beginning, we explore that in a very conceptual way. That's with paper, and then we make the image. But in the second exercise that they do the second design project, is basically working with carving operations, and they create caves, like using just removing material, and immediately create the visuals of the space, the quality of the space, the light coming in, so they understand the operations that they're doing geometrically, the Boolean operations, the pure geometric exploration to a outcome that is tectonic, outcome that is visual, and I think that really develops a certain new kind of intuition. When they're applying geometric operations, they can really understand from day one the consequences of those actions. So I think that is something that we're building, and over the terms, we try students to develop that understanding of the use of AI when it's relevant, and when it's not, we don't encourage them to use it, and we treat critically. We ask them to judge their results. Anything that is produced with AI, with Rhino, with anything, they need to own it, and they need to have agency at every step. So for us, it's always like, well, if it's done with AI, okay, but we need to have something that is extremely relevant and makes sense.
Totally, yes. Not using just for the sake of the technology.
Exactly.
I have one more question, and then we can jump to the audience questions. And
Sure.
my next question is really, I think, a bit basic, but it's, as an architect myself, sometimes I struggle with the speed that this technology is evolving. So my question is, how do you cope, or how do you keep up with this rapid development? It's insane.
It is. It is. It is, and it's difficult to cope. Actually, I mean, myself. Um, I really use AI in multiple ways. I use AI LLM models almost for everything. I've been coding the app, and I can share that the app was coded in 6 months from scratch by myself. So I didn't use a team to work. I was actually using my own coding skills, and I grew a lot in the last 6 months, learning a lot from AI, because you don't just copy and paste the text. You are learning. You are actually growing, expanding. So I think that AI is transformative in that way. You are able to do more because when you engage into these kind of challenges that before was unthinkable. So I couldn't say, I want to do my app myself. I mean, I would say impossible to have the entire life to do it. But now it's like, wow, I can really do that, and I can make changes and the things I can do and I can think that I can do are completely different right now, because you acquire skills, but also you start connecting different fields, and the technology evolves so fast that you're able to use it in the right way. You will be able to do more. So in different ways, I can sense, I can feel that kind of superpower that you get when you're using AI allows you to cope, to keep coping, because yeah, you upgrade yourself and you're able to keep actually going faster. But it can be at the same time draining and frustrating. I've been there. I'm still there. I mean, it's ups and lows constantly. It's a roller coaster, I would say. But as developed models appear, and suddenly it's like, wow, this doesn't work anymore. I need to change the entire mindset here because this model is old and was released only two months ago.
Yes.
So I think the mindset changed in a way that we cannot develop workflows that are tied to a particular model, because the model is going to evolve. The model is going to get extremely smart. So we need to keep this kind of like fluid mindset. So and that explains why I changed the interface of my app, because it's not one interface. It needs to be millions of interfaces. It needs to be something that can change. So in that mindset, we need to think of AI and something that maybe is what it is right now, but we need to be able to use it differently in a few months. So that requires a certain level of I don't know, resilience and energy. And of course, it's difficult to cope if you are not spending time really researching and seeing and watching and talking with people about that. Maybe just stay away from AI about 2 or 3 weeks, and it's difficult to catch up.
And yeah, and you are completely outdated.
Yes.
Thank you so much. So I
No worries.
have a couple of questions from the audience.
Mhm.
And the first one is, what do you feel would be the future of AI tools? Would it be the widespread use of closed source models, Midjourney, Runway, and so on? Or will the open source models become the standard? Or would it be a combination of both?
I believe always in a hybrid model. I think it's a combination of both. I think because there are amazing models that are not open. I mean, when look at now the new model VO3 is just incredible. It's just insane. The quality, the realism. You can see Runway 4, the way that you can start not just for videos but for images. The way that the understanding of the transferring of particular elements into a design is extremely deliberate, and I would say with the models that we had until today was not possible. I think today actually released a new model, which is it's a new model of Flux, which is amazing. That is Flux control and allows you to start working on that realm with open weights. So it comes a bit later, but it gets there. And when you get that control with the open source models or the more open models, the creative space amplifies a lot, because then you are not just applying one model, you are creating your own workflow. And I think that is when we can say something more than just using a tool. So I think it's sometimes, I mean, maybe 80% of the cases, architects or designers, they just need to go and use a ready-made model and then to create something with that model, like commercial models. But I would say there's a lot of space for investigation and research, and to say something new to our discipline that comes from that, deep understanding of the models and deep control and tuning the model. So I think it's hybrid, but depends on the use case.
That makes sense. And the last question, because we are a bit over time.
Okay.
In your experience, how receptive are clients to AI-driven design solutions?
Okay, that's well, I mean, I have different experiences in that. Mostly positive, I would say. I mean, depends on what you generate with AI, right? It's something that it depends on the client, right? Sometimes you don't even need to share that you're using AI, because you basically just want to share something that the clients like. But most of the time they came to me because they know I use AI, right? So it's like I want something special, I want something different, so I want to use your AI skills and do your AI designs. And the thing here is the projects I'm getting because of using AI are completely different, are of a different scale, of a different type, and the scope is completely new for me. For instance, now the latest request, which I think is going to take me maybe a few years busy, hopefully, is working on amazing project to design modern caves. So it's more like an intervention using AI of a natural landscape and start carving, and all these images that were presented here in Midjourney were the seed of that project. So then I need to start finding opportunities to bring that to life. So I would say they're very receptive. They're very receptive because they like what they see, but of course they need to trust someone that is able to transfer that into the real world. It's like, well, you're doing these beautiful images, but the images need to be somehow doable. And then you also need to have a team or yourself able to transfer that without not losing the essence of what you're presenting here. Otherwise, you're over-promising. Otherwise, you're actually creating a negative impact to your client. So I would say the use of AI typically is welcome, but it's very important to, as I say, always like keep control and know where you are, know your other skills to transfer that into a 3D model, into a buildable model, into other documents that will enable that to happen.
Thank you so much, Carlos, and thank you for your contribution, for your generosity. Congratulations on your work, always inspiring.
Thank you very much.
And your work truly illustrates how technology isn't just transforming architecture, it's expanding its possibilities. So it's amazing. Thank you so much.
Keep trying. We keep trying here. Thank you very much for the invitation.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure for me connecting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carlos, for that amazing presentation. Also for accepting our invitation. It was very special to us to have you today. We were very impressed here at Architecture Hunter about everything you presented today. It's a very relevant topic. And thank you also to Daniela for leading such a thoughtful conversation with Carlos. And now let's move forward with our second guest of the day, Cosimo Scotucci, Senior Project Leader at MVRDV. Cosimo is a senior project leader at MVRDV, where he leads innovative design projects with a focus on sustainability and people-centric solutions. His work blends architecture, landscape, and research to reimagine public space and architecture, fostering social impact through storytelling, experimentation, and a deep commitment to environmental responsibility. So please welcome Cosimo. We're very excited to see what you have for us today.
Hi, Rafaela. Thanks for having me. Thanks for the invitation.
Thank you.
Shall I start already the presentation?
Yes, sure, we can go on.
Okay, wonderful. All right, you see my screen, right?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Lovely. Okay. Yeah, when I was approached by Architecture Hunter with this topic of tech shaping architecture, I start wondering myself what it is technology to begin with. So on my quest to discover such a thing, I started with like the most brilliant mind I know, and Carl Sagan defined technology in this famous lecture, The Age of Exploration, as what make us human. But at a certain point, I came to realize that I had like this clear picture in my mind of apes using stones to crack open a nutshell. So like I thought that the explanation was true, was nice, but yet partial. So the second question I posed to myself is, okay, but when is it a stone stopping being a simple stone and start to become an artifact, something that has a purpose? So, and that's when I turn at Yuval Noah Harari and his latest work. Nexus is a fantastic book about technology from the Stone Age to this day, and then basically he defined technology any tool that serves a purpose. I was now filled with the scientific and philosophical kind of answer for what technology is, and then I went back to probably the most brutal definition of what technology is, and then I look up in the Oxford Dictionary, and technology is defined as the change and manipulation of the human environment. And this, somewhat made me realize something, that this definition is actually very good for architecture too. So this is when, obviously this is not from the Oxford Dictionary, but this is from myself. And basically here I concluded that architecture is technology and vice versa. So these two concepts are entangled together in order to shape the world around us. So the world we live in is for the vast majority, probably 99.9% design. Someone has been thinking about the way we move, the way we live, the way we sleep, and the way we make love to each other. And this is particularly relevant here in the Netherlands, where basically the country exists only through some technological invention. Like without dikes, I mean, I will be submerged in water and I will be able to stand where I am. It's actually a country that has faced throughout the last century like a linear growth in terms of population. And it's a country that have seen natural and man-made disaster. So, and I do believe that all of this, the environment shaped the minds of these people. So these are three of the most famous architects that worked in the Netherlands after the Second World War. And these three people enable to make like a huge paradigmatical shift from aesthetic to function. And they were the guys who invented pragmatism, so to say. And these guys were also the employer and the teacher of these other three guys. So Vinny and Jacob were working at OMA while Natalie was working at Meccano. And in the beginning of the 90s, they joined forces and they participated to Aeropan in Germany, which they won. And actually they won it because of the technological means they use. I mean, this architecture that they thought wasn't possible without the use of computer and 3D modeling. I mean, this is very initial, so to say. This is very sketchy, but that's what was state of the art back in the days. And they managed to create this kind of three-dimensional puzzle to respond to the need of every and single different user. So as you see, these like Tetris of houses respond to the needs of different people. So they win this, and they think it's time for them to quit their job and establish MVRDV. And the very first project they're commissioned with is the Villa Vipero, which actually is a famous broadcaster, TV and radio here in the Netherlands, probably the biggest. And basically, this is where Vipro used to be, in this beautiful array of classical Dutch villas. So to do this project, like Vinny, Jacob, and Natalie didn't look at the aesthetic of these houses, but they looked much deeper into the core of this building. They look at the people. They went on site. They track every fax and phone call made between people and between departments. They've seen how people were moving across these four different entities, and also the use they were making of the outdoor space and the park and the gardens and the terraces. So what they do is they translate this raw data into a section, into movement, where they want to facilitate the connection between people, between this department. So in a way, they want to translate into the physical world the meta data that they collected by analyzing people's behavior. So they come up with a building that is like a fluid form that is made actually out of the connection that like people establish among themselves, in order to facilitate this connection and to bring back this idea of the houses they were in. They adorned this building with typical kind of indoor furniture that you will find in a classical Dutch villa, from the rug to the chandelier. And then they spread these terraces and garden they found in the original kind of location across the vertical section of the whole building. So this building becomes like extremely popular. The company loves it, and the three founding partners of MVRDV decided to condense their thought and this new methodology and this datascaping into a book, some sort of a new Bible for the use of new technology and how this will help shaping the world around us, making a better world. So where architecture wasn't informed by aesthetic, but actually from data, which means that the solar part is a major kind of component in the building, and where the aesthetic of the building and the mass of the building come from the use of this raw data. So there is a law in the Netherlands that mandatorily say that every household needs to be guaranteed with 2 hours of sunlight per day. So they managed to come up with this complex shade that allow for this law to be fulfilled through what was cutting edge at the moment. And then they come up with the new expansion of neighborhood in Amsterdam, And because throughout our history, this idea of densification has been very important. So, and I mean, we still keep doing this kind of iteration. We still use these kind of tools. So this is a new project at the moment under construction in Eindhoven that basically respect the same law. But even more interesting, we wanted to export this kind of way of working somewhere else. So this is a complex we've done in Bordeaux. And I find it particularly fascinating because obviously in the Netherlands, sunny days are rare, and you want to harvest as much sun as you can. While in Bordeaux, with the completely different dynamics and weather and climate conditions, you might want to screen yourself from the sun. So we were presented with like underused or abandoned kind of a trade yard in the south coast of the river that cuts in through Bordeaux, the historical city being on the north. So what we do is we retrace the imprint of these railways, what makes this place identitarian, and then like basically we do the normal offset informed by the regulation of Bordeaux, the city of Bordeaux, and then we establish like a series of network of road cutting through this side, both north, south, and east, west. And then we extrude basically the remaining plot all the way to the maximum height allowed by the local regulation. And then we apply this Dutch principle of allowing everybody direct sunlight. So we cut this new massing, obtaining like a wild kind of series of shapes. And then we further cut the shapes both east and west to guarantee 2 hours of sunlight to every household. And then we extend the urban fabric of the existing village onto our site in order to create a continuity, historical and physical. And then we chop this building in order to guarantee to have the correct urban fabric and the dimension of the houses. So, and then we further cut our building in front of the River Garonne in order to guarantee also the people, the passerbys, and the people, the walkers down the river to have enough sunlight during the day. And then we match our height to the surrounding building. So, and then we free up a few spaces for plazas and urban gathering, and we end up with 144 completely different buildings that we aim to give to different architects. Okay, time out. I understand this is a lot to take, so I'll try to break it down to the most simple way as possible. So first principle is you take your shape, you cut it with a 45 angle degrees starting from the lowest point of the building next door. Then you chop it in order to get like a maximum depth of every building of 14 meters. Then you further chop the resulting mass with an angle of 22 degrees south to guarantee 2 hours sunlight to every single household. And then eventually we match the external facade to the contact. So this, I guess, gives a little better understanding of this master plan. And the fascinating thing is that to get along with the municipality, we given more than half of the units to be allocated for subsidized units. So we also spread public facilities across the whole master plan, along with places to work, a place to shop, and startup for creatives. And obviously all the parking are embedded in the newly built buildings we do for obvious sustainable reasons. We scatter park across the whole master plan, and that's how we came up with this cacophony of buildings and colors that led to this kind of image for a new neighborhood. So what we also gave to the municipality, are some inspiration for future building. And as you guys can see, all these buildings have like very peculiar shape. So we hoped that thanks to these peculiar shapes, the architect is asked to put as much as intelligence and creativity in order to make this shape work. So somewhat we make hard life for the architect, but to bring back the creativity and the architect at the center of the project. And as you can see, we did the very first iteration where we created these kind of spaces, and like for instance on top you see a restaurant, and we try to give back to the people also the most luxurious spaces such as the top floors. So this is like a shared restaurant and canteen for the inhabitants. And through the complexity of the shape, we had to look into the quality and certain solutions like the loggias and the balconies to enhance the quality of living of these people. And eventually with the strangeness of the shape, we also guaranteed double height or triple height floors where different people could be interested in buying different type of apartment. So I imagine someone doing like hula hoop in this very high space, throwing the hula hoop up in the air. Is only through this type of massing and this type of architecture that someone can be given the chance to do what they like in their own. And again, also on the external facade, we had to cut and carve bits and bytes of the building in order to provide quality of each and single house. But like what I really like about this project is actually not a project of ours. It's actually a Duncan Lewis design that is actually next to our plot, where the urban fabric was much smaller, so they couldn't create like a central courtyard. So they had to still respect our rules, but come up with an ingenious solution in order to provide shade toward the south. So they created this kind of open greenhouse that shades the sun for the people living in, creating also this beautiful buffer where ecology is stressed. Across the whole section of the building. Also, I mean, you can say that residential works. This is clear. But then, like we've seen also with the public facilities, how other architects look into our shape and then created these kind of safe terraces for the people, for the kids to run and play far from the streets and the car. So it's again thanks to the complexity of the masking and the ingenious solution of an architect that this space is realized. And I guess these kids in the future will think that using rooftop for play is just the new normal. Again, this doesn't stop with new buildings. In the side, there was also this abandoned and partitioned building, and they restored it again according to our rules, creating these shifting volumes that allow circulation on one side and beautiful triple-story high space where to study and read. After Parmax, the three founding partners start looking into MetaCity Data Town. So from the actually the architecture and the built environment, we looked into the larger sphere, the full environment we live in, and also the consequences of what we do. So obviously living is one of the categories we start to tackle. Forest and green in general, the waste. Again, the way we produce and consume energy, obviously agriculture to feed people, and industry to develop all the items and tools we use on a daily basis. So this broadening of the vision towards the full ecosystem allowed us to make this proposal for the Expo Pavilion in Hanover in 2000. So the theme of the pavilion was Holland Creates Space. And what we've done was we select 8 ecosystem of the Netherlands, both man-made and natural, and we stack them upon each other. So we applied this idea of density to the landscape, which is something that was completely unprecedented. And obviously we put a Heineken bar in, which is probably the most Dutch thing in the world. And then obviously all the things that make this country what it is were embedded in the pavilion, such as greenhouses or the soil. Then we give the people the potential also to experience our forest. And then obviously water, being a country that's share half of its border with the ocean and actually is reclaimed land. It's actually a very important thing for us. And then obviously energy, again, is a big factor, and the wind produce energy in the Netherlands is essential. And further down in the research, we came up with this big city idea, because in the early 2000s, there was the swine fever originated here in the Netherlands because the space pigs and piglets were given were like too small, and the living condition they were into were not the best. So we come up with a proposal where we multiply vertically the soil, the Netherlands area, and then we put all these facilities for pigs up onto the air, and then we create all the kind of state-of-the-art technology to keep them happy, and we see that now this kind of prediction came to realization in China, probably 25 years after we came up with our original concept, probably in a less green and porous way. But like we see that again, the word and like the technological means we used back in the days informed the world and shaped the world around us. Another beautiful case here in the Netherlands, there are like a batch of 20 happy cows living on top of water. So after we have looked at the rules shaping our architecture, and after we've looked at the let's say rules and environment around us, we start challenging these precepts and these rules. So for instance, in KM3, we explored this idea of density, and we've seen and we challenged like a very basic kind of rule we've seen already is this maximum height and shadowing. So as per any other Dutch city, in Rotterdam, like there are certain spots across the whole city that need to have a certain amount of daylight per day. That's why a strict and even stupid law of maximum 200 meter high towers has been put in place. And then we challenge this precondition, and then we extrude far above this line, and then we cut according. We put everything into a system. So eventually the new rule we set up, it's a much more smart rule that deforms, expand and contract depending on the whole system around us. And then this gives us the chance to grow higher, to build more, to densify our city even better. So, and this led to cases like our Ditten village, where like a family with two newborn kids wanted to expand their house. So we created this kind of typical houses on top of their roof. And somewhat now this is small but yet a landmark in the city center of Rotterdam. And we have done it also with temporary solution, the podium. With the podium, with this temporary solution, we managed to conquer the roof of a museum, which was not accessible before. And we've seen again how other responded, and the municipality accepted this concept, and other responded to this idea we generated. And we've seen a museum popping up on top of like old buildings. We've seen buildings leaning back to allow sunlight to their neighborhood, and we've seen buildings being chopped in order to guarantee sunlight to the public park. And to end up my excursion through the history of MVRDV and the way we use technology to inform our architecture. And so I want to present you with KM4. So this is an actual screenshot from the people working at the book. And then we are working on, with the new technology, how we can predict and shape the world around us. So to finally conclude, what we've seen at MVRDV is that throughout this 30 plus year of history, we use each and every single technology, but with the sole purpose of making buildings that people love. So thank you.
Hi, Cosimo.
Hello.
Thank you for that fascinating overview of the office work. And starting with our Q&A and exploring the ways that technology intersects with your design process, I would like to ask, since MVRDV is known for its research-driven approach and a lot of experimentation, how does technology support and influence this research and this experimentation in the practice of MVRDV?
Oh yeah, that's a very good question. So as I was saying at the beginning of the lecture, we see that architecture and technology are intertwined and entangled together in sort of constant dance. So whatever we do it through technological means, you know, our computer and the way we shape our architecture. And I think, but most importantly is, as you were saying, the theoretical background of MVRDV, where you know, technology is a starting point even, right? So trying to visualize raw data, trying to convert data into shape. So like what I'm extremely fascinated is that we never talk about beauty in the office. So I never heard in 10 years I spent in the company anyone saying like, hey, yeah, but can you make it more beautiful? Or is this, you know, we always talk about from a pragmatic point of view, what's the architecture serve? So we start asking some question ourselves. So we always try to set up like a goal, which is making the world a better place. And through technology and through architecture, we hope every time to make it. And the fascinating thing is that the office, since the very early days, allocated a lot of resources into developing our own technology. There are still around in the office some floppy disk with a custom maker, which was the very first script that allowed the office people to see how to do different type of urbanism, like where to densify whether to densify a certain area or other. And these days we have a computational team, our next team, that is taking care of developing AIs for us to work on, and is actually developing all the scripting possible tools for us to make our life easier. And in order to achieve the goal we set in the first place, again, technology is only a medium. It's not you know, something that you know, yeah, it does shape our buildings, but yet it's only like a nexus to get there, to get to the final goal of creating a better world, designing a better world.
Mm-hmm. And building on that, how in your practice, in your daily practice, how do you envision the role of technology in shaping architectural identity today? Is it more of a tool, a medium, or an agent of transformation?
Well, it's depending on the type of project we work on. It's a little bit of all of these things. Depending on what we do, certain things are not possible without a tool. Some other when you need to convey a message, it could be a medium. And then it could be like a partner even, like oftentimes it's with the new LLMs and the tools we're developing in-house, this collaborators and, they expand upon, the knowledge of the team. So it's a little bit of all of these things together. I guess there is no single answer, right?
And you were talking about these models that you are developing in the office, and are there any emerging technologies or whether it's AI, robotics, software that you are most excited about, or that you might explore in the office in the, let's say 5 or 10 years?
Yeah, so in MVRDV, we committed to, again, make the world a better place. And to start with, we know that the climate crisis is the most urgent problem humankind has ever faced. So, for instance, our next team is developed a software which I guess will be publicly shared soon. It's called Carbonscape, and it's AI agent that analyze all our proposal and help us defining a solution for reducing the carbon footprint of our building, both operation and embedded carbon. So you see in a one-to-one discussion with the software how the architecture can be deformed and morphed in order to be more sustainable. So I'm absolutely thrilled every time I open this and I start chatting a little bit. It blows my mind, right? Because this seems to be like a movie from the future, but it's extremely powerful tool that, and again, the office sees the potential of this tool for the entire world. So I guess we will be releasing it as soon as it's perfect. But so that's again also a way to shape the future, because we design how many 100, maybe 200 buildings in a lifetime as an office. But then if we share these tools, then we can expand our kind of range, right?
I look forward to it. I'm really curious about it. Now, moving on to our audience questions, I have a couple of questions. The first one is, what advice would you give to someone who's just beginning to explore the use of emerging technologies in architecture?
Yeah, do it to the hardest extent. That's how Vinny, Jacob, and Natalie started, right? So they've seen the potential of 3D modeling, which now for us it's branded. Like you can even do it with a smartphone these days. And by that, combining with like a personal goals and values. So as soon as you merge it with ideas, then you can explore and express yourself at the best. Right. I remember at the university when I didn't know much of the software, and I was trying with physical model to create, the architecture I was envisioning. Right. So I don't really care about the tool itself. I don't really care about the technology we're using, as long as, again, we do it to convey a message in order to, shape a better world. So yeah, like dive into it. And as Carlos was saying before, and you were saying with him, the technology is going so fast and it's unprecedented, because we're now running at IT speed, right? So this is not something that we use or comfortable with. So the profession is changing, I guess, for the best. Again, like since ChatGPT was released, I see that everybody in the office has like a personal angel, and someone to go back to in moment of crisis. And so with our Carbonscape and all of these other things. So I guess the more you know, the better it is. The larger the knowledge, the better it is. But yet, it's not pure technology. I still believe in humans. I still believe that our goals, our ambition, our values need to be put into the design. Because we're creating a better world for humankind, right?
Exactly. Amazing. And the last question is, what are the ethical considerations when integrating AI into, in this case, landscape architecture?
Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, I think the ethics of AI these days is very strange kind of topic, in a sense that, like, before we all put trust into states, and whether it's a democratic state, it's even better, where you have the possibility to change, right? So we have election every 4 years, for instance. So if you don't like what you've seen, you can change it, right? And you can correct your focus along the way. So now we see that the power is moving from states to companies, right? So OpenAI is a private company. So, and if tomorrow they decide to make a shift towards something different, unethical, so to say, then we're left alone. There is no copy mechanism. There is no changing, right? So Sam Altman stays CEO forever, as long as his company, it can do what it likes. But again, and then we've seen also, like, people and technocrats changing their mind. People we thought were genius now became hassles. Forgive me for the term. So yeah, it's a very, very difficult question. Also on ownership, like an image generated by AI. Who owns the image? Is me who put the concept in, or is the AI who actually generated the image? So I think there is a lot of ethical debates, but I think it's important that we talk about these ethical debates, that it will, in a way, protect us from this company turning unethical. So if we talk about it, if we realize there's something going on, then we can all shift to another product. We can shift to another medium. We can, in a way, inform the market and shape the market. So, and we've seen this with AI in general. Like, I remember the early days of Midjourney, we were all saying in forums and things, it will be nice if you can change the image along the way, right? And then pop, 3 months after, you have it, right? And then we say, so again, I think as customer, in this sense, we have a great power of shaping, the society, and somewhat drive the ethical decision, both in landscape design, but also in architecture, or even in the words. I mean, if you remember ChatGPT at the beginning, it was it was pretty crazy. You will get like this random, serious, strange answer, and then little by little, because we complained, we reported, we've been hurt, and now the whole system changed. So I guess us as customer as the ethical power to shape AI at the moment, and tell whoever's behind them, the engineers. It's also strange because, again, at the beginning of my lecture, I start with Carl Sagan, a scientist, and Yuval Noah Harari, a historian, philosopher, that the power of ethics these days is on engineers, right? There is someone in Silicon Valley who didn't study any philosophy as per in the Greek time, or the last 2 centuries across the whole world, but they studied coding, and they are the one actually, doing the script and somewhat shaping or focusing on certain direction. But again, more and more you see, for instance, on Midjourney during the election, you couldn't generate anything with Biden or Trump. So in that sense, again, as customer, we need to inform the market and shape it to have the ethical response we hope to have.
Okay. Thank you so much, Cosimo. We have come to the end of this webinar. Thank you for your generosity, for your presentation. It was very inspiring to see this wide range of projects from the office and to hear your thoughts on how technology is shaping architecture.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks for the invitation. It was a great pleasure to meeting with you guys.
Thank you, Cosimo. It's very inspiring to see everything you presented today. We at Architecture Hunter, we are very big fans of MVRDV, so we were very happy to have you with us. And that brings us to the end of today's session. And a huge thank you again to our incredible speakers, Carlos and Cosimo, for their generosity in sharing their time, insights, and experiences, and to all of you in the audience for staying with us until the end. And we truly hope that today's conversation was enriching. Our mission to constantly bring valuable, thought-provoking content to our global community is something we care deeply about, and your feedback and engagement are what keeps us going. So before we wrap up, just a quick reminder that the Architecture Hunter Awards 2025 are now in the main entry phase. So if you haven't joined yet, now's a great moment to guarantee your participation. We have an incredible jury, and we would love to have you to be part of it. So thank you again. We're excited to share that the next month's theme is a very special one. We're going to talk about renovation in architecture. So stay tuned because we'll reveal our guest speakers very, very soon. So I'll see you next month and for another great webinar.